Relying on God.
My brothers, I had a dream. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it.
Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?
Joseph's brothers hated him because of what he said.
I had another dream. Listen, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me.
What?
Father, I had a dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me.
What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?
His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind.
As you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them. Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me.
When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?
They have moved on from here. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan.
So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him.
Here comes that dreamer.
Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams.
Let's not take his life, don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him.
Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt.
What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood.
True, I agree with you.
So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?" Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father.
We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe.
It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces.
Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted.
I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. Joseph, my son.
Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned.
I leave everything I have in your care, with you in charge. I do not concern myself with anything. Thank you, master.
Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph.
Joseph, come to bed with me.
With me in charge, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?
And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Some time later.
Come to bed with me.
No, I will not do that.
She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house.
Servant, look, this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house.
What? She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story.
That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. This is how your slave treated me.
How could he do that?
Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined.
I am sending you to prison. How could you try to sleep with my wife?
Genesis 39. 20-23 Niv. 20 Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, 21 the Lord was with him, he showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. 22 So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. 23 The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.
Understand this, nothing just happened in a believer's life. If God allow things to happen in your life, then He has greater purpose for you. No suffering or pain is ever in vain. Fear not, you are being elevated through that hardship.
Thank you very much for supporting my channel. God bless you. Please subscribe to my channel for more.